And in the same way you're talking about with Chase Edmonds, if his usage could certainly change throughout the season, we don't want to overreact to what happens in week one. Same case with Zach Wilson. He might come out in week one against the Panthers and absolutely shine, but then get shut down over the next 3 weeks against the Patriots and the Broncos in some tougher matchups. But even in the preseason, and this is something we've been preaching over and over and over again, and we're going to continue to do it, is do not react to camp and preseason reports. And the guy who's been at the headline time and time again so far in this camp cycle has been JaMarr Chase, a top 5 draft pick who's super hyped up. He's had a lot of drops. Really only had one strong highlight play, and it was a check down, essentially. It was a screen pass that he was able to take for something like 19 yards, but I'm not going to overreact to those. I mean, last year we had Olabisi Johnson being proclaimed as the number 2 or number 3 over Justin Jefferson. People react, especially to names that are hyped up. It's like every small issue just gets magnified to the 1,000th degree. I'm not overreacting to these JaMarr Chase drops. And I got called out the other day on one of our mock drafts. I took JaMarr Chase in the back of the 5th round. When I needed a wide receiver and it was in this running back dead zone, I was like, Chase Edmonds or JaMarr Chase. I ended up going with JaMarr Chase, especially over Chase Claypool. People were pissed off about that. But with JaMarr Chase, you got to look at the situation and what his resume has shown us up to this point. You can't just look at, he's been really bad in camp coming off a year where he didn't play football. I guess he's just trash now. Because the situation is phenomenal. All 3 of Boyd, Higgins, and A.J. Green last year were all over 100 targets. A.J. Green vacates over 100 targets. Joe Burrow was on pace to be second in the league in pass attempts, just behind Big Ben at 40 attempts per game. And regardless of game script, the Bengals are always passing the ball. And they're mostly losing, which is great for this offense, which we've talked about being a Dallas Cowboys light with a strong 3-down workhorse back in Joe Mixon, 3 very solid wide receivers, and no tight end presence that folks need to compete with. We had 194 vacated targets between A.J. Green, Gio Bernard, and John Ross. I think JaMarr Chase steps into a role where he can see that Justin Jefferson level, 125 targets in year 1. And JaMarr Chase and Joe Burrow have insane rapport on film. I mean, Chase is going to be looked to early and often, I believe, in the red zone. And in 2019, Burrow's senior year at LSU, where everyone just fell in love with him, right? He was the only college quarterback to ever have a better passer rating while under pressure. That wasn't all just Joe Burrow being incredible. That's also JaMarr Chase knowing where to be on the field. That's why he had 111 targets, 1,700 yards, and 20 touchdowns in one season in college. You got to remember what this man is capable of, relegating Justin Jefferson to the slot, making Terrace Marshall a third stringer. Man, I'm still excited for JaMarr Chase. I'm not overreacting to this news of these drops and him looking bad in practice. And we've also seen reports of him being good in camp and at practice, and people just seem to throw those under the bed, essentially.
Yeah, I'm willing to buy this perceived dip on JaMarr Chase for sure. And you mentioned the target volume he's going to get. I statted out the Bengals, and right now I have JaMarr Chase, Higgins, and Tyler Boyd all well over 100 targets. They're all over 115 targets for me right now. And I know it sounds crazy, but teams can support target volume for 3 wide receivers. We saw Dallas do it. That's the easy, team to throw out there. They had 130 targets, 111, and 105 for their top 3 receivers. But even Carolina last year had 136, 118, and 97 targets for the top 3 receivers. And they're not even a high pass volume team. And that's an example of a team with no tight end of consequence on their roster in terms of pass volume. I know they have Darren Arnold this season, but last year there was no one. So this Cincy team with 3 stud wide receivers, a weaker defense, and Joe Burrow, this is going to be a pass-happy offense, and I think there's going to be plenty of volume to go around. So I'm more than happy to take JaMarr Chase as my wide receiver too. And if you're someone watching that hasn't drafted yet, if he's there end of round 5, even if he falls to early round 6, by all means, take that risk on that upside with JaMarr Chase because the talent is there. And you mentioned it. We got to remember, he's been out of football for an entire season, opting out of the 2020 college season. So, of course, he's going to have to knock off some rust in training camp and in the preseason. I definitely think it's possible he gets off to a slow start, one, because of that missed time playing on a competitive football field in real, like live game action, and two, just because he's a rookie wide receiver. We see this all the time. So I am more than happy to draft him at value. And if you're a team that's already drafted and you don't have JaMarr Chase, this is going to be one of my guys to keep an eye on in your league, because I'm going to buy low on JaMarr Chase if he disappoints in the first couple games. He starts out with Minnesota, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. Very, very possible he comes out of those first 3 games without like a very stellar performance, without really doing a lot for your fantasy team. But then after that, he gets Jacksonville, Green Bay, and Detroit. So if the team that drafted Chase in your league is down on him after those first 2-3 games, I'm making an offer. Like, I'm in there, I'm making an offer and seeing if they're going to sell him to me. Hopefully he's a guy I can keep on my bench for that Jacksonville game, see what happens. And if he plays well, I'm willing to start him against Green Bay in week 5. But if we look at Justin Jefferson last season, it was the same case. I mean, he came out first 2 weeks, 4 fantasy points, 7 fantasy points. Week 3, he popped off for 30. So don't give up on JaMarr Chase too early. He's got a lot of things he's working through. 1, as a rookie in the NFL. 2, as someone who just took a year off of competitive football. So JaMarr Chase, and those matchups are tough too. I mean, having Pittsburgh and Chicago in week 2 and 3 isn't going to do them any favors. So be patient with Chase, and he's definitely someone I'm willing to hang on to if I already drafted him, and someone I'm going to scoop in and make an offer for if someone else has him in your league.
He's the equivalent of that Javonte Williams or Trey Sermon, where he should ascend as the year goes on, could be a league winner for you down the stretch. Love what you said there on him being a potential buy low once we're in season. I will say, the odds are against JaMarr Chase to be a wide receiver 1. Of 31 wide receivers taken in the first round of the NFL draft, only 2 of them have been wide receiver 1s in their first year. Oddly enough, those guys are Justin Jefferson and Odell Beckham, both LSU products. But we've seen JaMarr Chase line up with Justin Jefferson in that same wide receiver room. So could it happen again? Certainly. Am I expecting it? No, but should be a strong wide receiver 2, which is exactly where you're getting him. And that upside is insane. I would love to have him as my flex down the stretch this year. And one more thing I'll say on taking him over Chase Claypool, because when you think of Chase Claypool, he's also like this athletic freak, upside name. What I don't like about Chase Claypool is he's not quite as good of a skill set match with his quarterback. And we know JaMarr Chase and Joe Burrow have this connection. With Big Ben, we saw him decline down the stretch last year. We know both offenses have brutal offensive lines. The Steelers and the Bengals O-lines are not ones that get you excited. Then you add in the fact that in Pittsburgh, they have Eric Ebron, who is a tight end that needs to be considered, who is going to get his due in the passing game. And you add in the fact that Pittsburgh should be in much better game scripts with that dominant defense. So there you go. Shout out to whoever it was on our last video calling me out for going Chase over Claypool.